Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, I got to relive the Ohio State Maryland game for a second time. So how do you think I'm doing? Great. The answer is great.
Well, did you stick through the whole thing? Because it got better. I'll just let you know that.
It did. This is the second week in a row where I'm rewatching a game I have already watched in person. And I'm like, there's no way they're winning this game. They are definitely losing this game. And then they end up coming back. Son of a gun, Tony. They come back to win yet again. If I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet tomorrow, Tony, wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
So this is our Maryland rewatch show. And the great thing about doing rewatches is some people will put them up on YouTube and they're 40 minutes long. And that's a fantastic tool for a lot of people to use if you want to rewatch a game quickly. Cut out everything, and could not recommend it highly enough. But that's neither here nor there. I'll just say that God bless YouTube.
Some of us are purists, Tony, and like to watch the full broadcasts, which is also useful if you're hypothetically doing a podcast in the future with Ross Fulton, where you need to know where certain replays are in the broadcast. So, some of us are purists, others look for shortcuts and everything that they do. But I'm not here to say which of us is which.
Neither am I, because I think the context spelled it out. So, Tom, I'll let you go first. Give us something that you learned from the rewatch of this Maryland game.
Well, I think literally the first note I have is that Kyle McCord just looked uncomfortable in the pocket even before there was pressure. There were times when he had good cause to be uncomfortable in the pocket, but just off the top of the game, he just didn't look comfortable back there. And I don't know if that's sort of a cumulative effect of knowing that he's been under pressure more than you have seen Ohio State quarterbacks under pressure in recent years because of the offensive line issues, or if that was just sort of anticipating what Maryland was going to do. But he just, on that first drive, he bounced the first pass that he should have, that was an easy throw. And then just on third down, it looked like he could have stayed in the pocket and done something, and he just sort of bailed, and then that cuts off half of the field. So he just didn't look real comfortable off the start of the game, and obviously that got substantially better later. But I don't know if that's is that a cumulative effect of the offensive line issues this year?
Well, maybe, but they're also the sack that Josh Fryer gave up when Kyle McCord drops way back into the pocket and just hangs back there. And there is so much area for him to step up into the pocket where there was a clear area and get rid of the ball. But he didn't. He just stood back there and got sacked. And Josh Fryer will get credit for giving up that sack. But the feel early on wasn't there. And I don't know if that's something that he needs a first quarter of before it starts to click until he's a veteran starting quarterback. And maybe that's something that happens. But the feel that wasn't there early on. The throws weren't there. The timing wasn't there. And even when things were there, there's still some lateness and some delays to the throws. The deep one to Marvin Harrison, which should have been 90 yards, ends up being just 58 yards. And the throw to Julian Fleming where he had to slide down to catch it. That throw to Marvin is really, really late. And you could see, you could see it live, and then you watch it again on TV and on the replay, and he could have thrown that one much earlier and didn't. And I think still flung it about 55 yards, but Marvin had to essentially stop for it.
Yeah, and there was the one for Julian Fleming too, where Julian Fleming, if he led Julian Fleming walks into the end zone, and it said he threw it low and behind, and just Julian Fleming had to put on the brakes and sort of slide down and catch it down on the ground. And, the good news is you have receivers who can make those plays, but if you just lead those guys a little more, that might be 2 touchdowns through the air and not, a one that I think they both set up touchdowns, but either way, that was, I think the long Harrison one, we'll get to the long Harrison one in a minute, because that ended up setting up a field goal. And I have thoughts on the end of that drive for sure. We'll get there later. But yeah, he has looked a little off. And I think, some of that is McCord. I think some of that is the line too.
Those 2 passes, the 58 yarder to Harrison, and then the other one was 37 yards to Fleming. So, 95 yards there on two throws that were, I think those two throws were part of the reason why fans were so upset, because things weren't going great and those could have been touchdowns and eliminated everything. And yet you look at it and he's 2 for 2 on those throws for, 95 yards or whatever. But it's like, if you look at it a little closer, but eventually, he finished 17 of 22, threw for 200 odd yards, 190 some yards in the second half or whatever. And he picked it up and he was fine. But that early start was, it's probably too early in the season for that to be concerning. That's more of a, you don't want to see it against Penn State, but it's hard to imagine there won't be a slow start for the offense in that game. I've already eliminated some of my list through this conversation already, Tom. But one of the things I want to talk about the defense and the penalties that this team is getting right now. If I bring that box score back up, let me see how many exactly they had, because it's not like the penalties cost them in this game. They had 10 for 81, right? That's 10 is a lot. And yet I'm still, I don't know if I could put up a huge argument if Davis and Igbinosun's block in the back had stood, or, that the blindside block, because that was very close. Tommy Eichenberg shoving the quarterback down well after the play. That should have been 15 yards. That should have been roughing. Steel Chambers not getting off of the receiver at the end of the first half. Defenses do that a lot. He's fortunate that he didn't get flagged for that, and there had been an untimed down for that one. So the Buckeyes got away with some things here that you may not like the Mike Hall roughing the passer call, but they got away with some things in this one that could have killed some momentum, changed some momentum, cost them some yards, cost them some field position. And just watching it back, I'm still puzzled by the Tommy Eichenberg one, because the ref is looking right at him and basically says, "Hey, don't do that again." And it's like, do what? If you didn't throw a flag, I can do it anytime I want.
Well, yeah, that one was a weird one. I thought the Mike Hall late hit was, I thought the Eichenberg one was more glaring than the Mike Hall one. I kind of disagree with you on the Igbinosun blindside block. I thought that was like, you can't call that. He's in front of him. He hits the front of his body, head on a swivel. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if I hit the front of you, it's not a blindside block, because the front of your body is where your eyes are. So yeah, that one would have been a bad one. The Xavier Johnson one that wiped out the touchdown, that was pretty ticky-tack. That was like, I mean, that's one of those things where, sure, you can call that, but you could call that on virtually every receiver who's in motion pretty much all the time. So that was a weird one, especially to call it as late as that flag came in. That was kind of odd. But I think Ohio State fans are looking at that and going, the ref screwed us because of this. And it's like, yeah, then I don't think it was a particularly well officiated game overall. I thought they missed calls that, I thought they made calls they didn't need to. I thought they didn't make calls they probably should have. But, whatever. It's college football. That's kind of what you get.
Watch Emeka Egbuka when he goes in motion. 90% of the time he is heading upfield. And that's what they flagged Xavier Johnson for. And I see it, and I've stopped even noticing it now, because it's like, well, if they're not going to call it, and then the problem is, the one time they do, like, that can cost you a touchdown, and it did. Fortunately, you've got Marvin Harrison to uncost you the touchdown the next play.
Yeah, and you want to fix something, start calling illegal man downfield. That's if you want an area of focus, that would make a much bigger positive change on the game of football than anything else. But that's been the case for a while. My next one, this sort of goes into the, wow, I can't believe Ohio State won this game as I'm watching this. Boy, Maryland was very, very close to having a 14-0 lead. There was a catch in the end zone that just barely hit the ground. it's early in the second quarter. It's 140 to 28 in total yardage. Maryland at one point had a 7-0 lead in the ball at the OSU 3. And then they're up 10-0. They had the ball back. And man, oh man, that Josh Proctor pick six. I think enough stuff happened after that it sort of got lost how big that play was. If Maryland goes down and scores a touchdown on that drive, it's 17-0. I mean, and they had put together a couple drives. They hadn't put together monster drives, and that would have been by far their best drive of the game. But to be down 10-0 at home, nothing's going right. The offense looked just atrocious. The offense had, they put together a drive chart at one point on the screen, and it looked like an Iowa drive chart. It was a bunch of 6 yards, 17 yards, 20 yards, punt. I mean, it was going bad for Ohio State. But you get that one play. Sometimes it just takes that one play to completely swing the game, and that Josh Proctor interception was one of the bigger momentum swings you've seen inside that stadium in years.
Sometimes it takes a pick six to do that, as we've seen over the years. What do you got next?
Boy, after the long plays to Marvin Harrison, you have the long 54-yarder or whatever it was. You have another one to Marvin Harrison, gets you down the field. You've got them on their heels. You've been dominating through the air. They have no answer for Marvin Harrison. What do you do, Tony? You run the ball. You give Chip Trainum a jet sweep out of the slot for some reason. You throw some kind of screen. How many points do you get for just doing the thing that works on a touchdown? It feels like 7. How many points do you get for doing okay, now we're going to maybe make them stop it once before you do something else would be my thought there. I mean, and Joel Klatt, this is something we've talked about on this show a bunch over the weeks, which is use Marvin Harrison in the red zone. Use Marvin Harrison on 1st and goal. Put him out there and make them do something. Make them decide, hey, we're going to put one guy on him. We're going to put 2 guys on him. We've talked about that in the context of them pulling him off the field. Klatt talked about it just in the context of put 2 receivers on one side and put Marvin Harrison by himself on the other side, and make them tell you what they're going to do. There's either going to be 1 or 2 people out there. Make them tell you what they're going to do. And it just feels like that's just such an obvious answer. And I don't know why they have done all sorts of stuff that wasn't that. Ryan Day talked on Tuesday about, that they have to run the ball. They can't just give up on the run because they need to do it later in the season. But there was a lot of running that didn't go anywhere. And, I feel like they maybe are overthinking things at times and just take the easy win, make them, and if Marvin Harrison's out there, and if they've got 2 guys on him, guess what? That makes it easier to run the ball or throw it to someone else.
Yeah, that goes right into mine, which is take the numbers that are given to you, basically. With the 12 personnel, you're bringing more guys into the box, which makes it harder for your offensive line to block because this is not a very good offensive line at this point. Lighten up the box. Spread the team, spread the defense out, run into a 6-man front, 6-man box. You're going to have some success. You can run right up the middle with that stuff. You can keep it between the tackles if you like. Lighten up the box. And then also, when the numbers are there for Marvin, like early in the third quarter, you're looking for something. Maryland has 8 in the box and a single high safety. So both outside receivers are single covered. Kyle McCord just checks it up to Harrison before the safety can get over there. There's a 15-yard pass interference penalty. Just start, like I said, do the easy stuff. Take the numbers, play the numbers. How many years did we listen to Urban Meyer talk about equating numbers and things like that with spreading them out and running into a 6-man box? Like, Ohio State can do that. They don't need necessarily Kyle McCord to be part of the running game, although it wouldn't hurt him to keep it once in a while just to make the defense think that's possible. But like we've talked about with the goal line stuff and the short yardage stuff, bringing more people into the box is not the answer. And I think the same thing, the running game in general, bringing more people into the box is not the answer because I don't think they're all that effective with 12 personnel. And they're certainly not effective when they're running short side and squeezing things even more I think early on they had some success running from the 11 personnel and running between the tackles and keeping things just. There are only so many defenders right there in that 6-man box that you've got 5 offensive linemen and a tight end, and now the safety has to come up and clean it up, but you're going to get 6 yards out of it. And I wanted to go back and look at to see what Ryan Day, what the play calling tendencies were on 2nd and 10, because I feel like you can spread them out and pick up the 5 yards on the ground so that when you are not completing passes early on in the game, you don't have to worry about a 3rd and 10. If you throw on first down, which you should, I'm completely on board with that, then it's incomplete early on. You don't need to just throw 2 more times. You can lighten up the box and run. And, if you want 4 yards on first down, and that's a win for them, if they get 4 yards on 2nd down, that opens up much more on 3rd down, on a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5 than a 3rd and 10. I just think they need to start fixing the numbers or going to the numbers more offensively.
Yeah, and I think maybe some of that is also the numbers in the run game don't necessarily look like what they should based on the numbers, because the offensive line is just, the expectation with the offensive line, and they talked about this a couple times on the broadcast, but this is something that Ross Fulton and I have talked about for years. The expectation is you get a double team, on the defensive tackle or someone like, or one of the defensive linemen, and then one of the linemen gets up to the 2nd level and blocks one of the linebackers. And, ideally you're blocking both of the linebackers. And those linebackers were just clean all day long. The line was just not getting to that 2nd level. And that's one of those situations where, okay, it's a light box, but if the 5 offensive linemen are just blocking the 4 defensive linemen, then you still have a linebacker or 2 who's just coming clean. And it was just, Chip Trainum's going around the edge of the tackle, and then immediately there's a linebacker there, or you're running, and it's just when you get to the hole, boom, there's a linebacker there, and there's no one blocking him. He's just standing there waiting for you. And that, that changes the math on those numbers a little bit. And that offensive line, it's a problem. And I'm sure I'm not telling anyone anything they don't realize. I'm on the field. I don't have a great view of everything. I could just kind of see the run game's not working very well today. Is that just because of Travion Henderson, or what's the issue? It's like, oh no. The offensive line is a problem, like a problem. The fact that there is not anyone waiting in the wings, apparently, based on what Ryan Day said on Tuesday, that's also a problem, because that means, how many of these guys who are in the offensive line right now are you confident in doing their job consistently well? I mean, obviously the answer is not 5. I'm not even going to make you name names, but how many guys are you confident are going to consistently do their job well? Not every play, doesn't have to be perfect, but consistently, even if it's 75% of the time, not even grading out as a champion, 75% of the time, how many guys are you confident are going to be doing their jobs 75% of the time well?
Right now, I don't know if I'd put anybody on that list. And I wonder how often any of those 5 guys have been put on the list, as we've talked about in the past. Like, how many guys have been named champion in the 25 opportunities that the starting 5 has had this season? It's certainly not half, and we've tried to put a number on it, and it's almost insulting to do so, because the results might be the projections might be so low, but there's not a lot of confidence in any of them. And you would think we'd have more confidence in Donovan Jackson and Matt Jones. And I have not seen the inside run being a strength. And, right now I think Josh Simmons is getting better. But it only takes one thing to go slightly wrong for everything to collapse. But I don't think it's just one thing each play. I think you're seeing one thing here, and then if you look over there, you also find something over here that has not been done correctly. So there's a lot of work for Justin Fry to get done. And so, this is not a new situation. And you wonder, how much did Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, and Luke Whippler cover over, last year?
Well, I think the tackles in particular, I mean, they were just so good. And, they're both doing well in the NFL right now. So that, kind of tells you what they had there. whenever anyone talks about Luke Whippler, I think how much different would the line be if Luke Whippler had come back? Because, Luke Whippler is not, on his way to an all-pro season in his first pro year. So, if he had it to do over again and decided he could come back, how different would this line look? I don't think that fixes everything by any means. You're still, there has been Ohio State, would probably love to have DeJuan Jones back at the right tackle spot this year. I think that would probably make a pretty big difference. But just having Whippler in the middle of the line, I think would probably make a difference as well. So there's I don't know that, the cavalry is not coming there. So, and I don't know how much better it's reasonable to think they're going to get. And if they don't get significantly better, that feels like, all right, you're really going to have to lean on the defense and Marvin Harrison, and you're going to have to win games the way you won games against Maryland, because you're not going to be able to run the ball. You're not going to be, you're not going to be able to pass protect, consistently well, and you're going to have to try and win games 27-17 or something like that, because you're going to, or 28-24 or something like that, because you're not going to, with that offensive line, you are not going to be putting up 50 something points week to week against better competition. That, those days of the Ohio State offense are not coming back this year. I don't think unless there is a material change in terms of the offensive line play. I think that the more I watch it, the more I view it as a concern.
Yeah. And rarely is there a push forward. It's just a stalemate, which does you no good when the goal of the running game is to move the ball forward, because you're just running into a wall. And that's why, whether it's 6, 8, 9 guys in there, even when it's just 4-on-4, you're not seeing the kind of push that you can see from other programs and that you would expect to see from Ohio State. Tom, is it my turn or is it your turn? Would you like to go?
I can go if you'd like me to.
Well, I got something here for you, Tom. The Kenyatta Jackson had a bull rush on third and 26. It's just a 3-man rush, and he took his man into Talia Tagovailoa's hip pocket basically, and Tagovailoa had to escape. And I thought that was just a good moment. They had a couple of good 3-man rushes in there on 3rd and long, which is always good to see. I think another one was Mike Hall essentially went unblocked. Like, they just let him go for something, the guard and center miscommunicated, and you might want to block that guy. But I just like the Kenyatta Jackson, just the bull rush, because this is a speed pass rusher, doesn't necessarily have the strength and the weight and the everything that you want out of a guy just yet. But he sure looked like a strong enough dude on that one, because, like I said, he carried the lineman right into Talia Tagovailoa and collapsed the pocket, and Tagovailoa had to escape. And I don't think the play ended up being anything good for Maryland. And just good to see from a young guy who is starting to get more time. I was a little surprised at how much he played in this one, given how little he played against Notre Dame. But Notre Dame and Maryland are two different game type situations.
I also think that after really not playing the other two guys at all at Notre Dame, there was probably a little bit of a conscious effort to get them on the field. And I think they were also somewhat strategic about it, where, when you saw Kenyatta Jackson out there, it was a lot of times it was that 3rd and 26 or even 3rd and 10 kind of situation where Tony, what does a young pass rusher get to do when it is 3rd and long in an obvious passing situation?
Pin the ears back? He
does, in fact, get to pin his ears back, Tony. Yes. And thank you for playing college football announcer cliches. We have you get to take home our home version. That's a smart time to use him, because that's someone who the talent is there. And now it's just a matter of, okay, you got to get a little more well-rounded and probably bulk up a little bit. And that's all well and good. They don't need him to do everything this year, but that's the fact that they're comfortable putting him in there, and the fact that they've had Caden Curry in that Rushman package a bunch this year, that should be, that's a positive indication for the future that those guys are taking on a bigger role, and those guys are people that they trust in important spots to make plays and to to, not take a stupid penalty or anything like that. So yeah, that's very good. That's very encouraging, and definitely something to watch moving forward. So those are young guys who are showing that they should play more. Boy, Tony, can we talk about Maryland's management of the last drive of the first half? And they had to burn a timeout, and then they had no timeouts. And it's like, okay, all you have to do is not take a sack here. You're in field goal range. All you have to do is not take a sack and not throw to a guy inbounds, short of the sticks, because you won't have time to stop the clock. Anywhere else, the clock will stop. You can clock it, no problem. Get out of bounds, throw it in the end zone, throw it away, whatever you need to do. Just don't do this one thing. And Tony, you're not going to believe it, but they did the one thing. And, to your point, yes, Ohio State needs to not be taking, not putting themselves in position to give up an untimed down in that spot, but with a penalty, if they judge that you're holding the guy down, with the amount of time they had on the clock, they were not going to get that. They were not going to get lined up and get it clocked. Like, that was not even close. That was not, oh boy, they just missed it by 1 second. They were 3 to 4 seconds away when that clock hit 0. So yeah, that was just, for a veteran quarterback, like, do better. That's just, if that's a first year quarterback and a, redshirt freshman, like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's a big moment. You're kind of hurrying. The game's a little fast for you. There's no excuse for a guy who played in 2018 in college to be making that kind of mistake. That's just really bad. But, watching him run in the first drive of the third quarter, next drive for Maryland, he had a couple just kind of designed quarterback runs. He scored a touchdown on one, and boy, Tony, I got to tell you, the name J.J. McCarthy popped into my head as I was watching that happen, and I thought, Ohio State's going to want to figure out a way to not have that happen, because if I saw that and thought J.J. McCarthy, I am going to guess opposing coaching staffs who may be on the schedule for a month and a couple weeks from now may have also had the same thought.
I don't remember if it was Ryan Day or Jim Knowles on Tuesday talking about Hudson Card, the Purdue quarterback, saying, he's a mobile guy. He's not as mobile as Talia Tagovailoa, who's probably the most mobile quarterback they're going to see this year. And I'm like, what? Whoa, you might. There's a guy in Michigan named J.J. McCarthy. And yeah, one of my notes here was that not a great job of spying by Steel Chambers on that play, on the touchdown run. He got juked badly, and he's going to need to be doing a better job of that if he is going to be the spy on J.J. McCarthy. That might be a better job for Sonny Styles based on what we've seen.
Yeah, well, and there was one where I think it was a third down play where Tommy Eichenberg looked like he had Talia Tagovailoa dead to rights a couple yards in the backfield, and it's they're in their own end, so you get off the field, and he just missed him. I mean, he was there, he got both hands on him, and he just didn't tackle him. And Josh Proctor looked like, he was jumping up to defend a pass just in case Tagovailoa threw it, and so you had two guys there, and somehow he ended up picking up the first down, and that's one of those plays where it didn't kill him then, but boy, oh boy, you can't, you can't let that guy. This is not Michael Vick. I mean, he's fine. He's not Michael Vick. Like, you should be able to get that guy on the ground. That's a play you gotta make. And the linebackers on the whole. This was a topic on our post-game show, so this is not exactly breaking new ground. But the linebackers were not great during the course of that game. And these are veteran guys, and these are returning starters who were both pretty good last year. Like, I don't. That shit's a little bit of a concern that you had a game that looked like that. And I know Eichenberg had one of his thumbs, I think it was his right thumb, wrapped again. So, maybe he's a little banged up, but the linebackers are not a spot where you were expecting like, oh boy, they really didn't have a good game.
Yeah, and that Tommy Eichenberg miss, that was setting up for an Andy Katzenmoyer or Corby Jones. And that was all on the same drive where Josh Proctor had the big hit on the kickoff. Lathan Ransom had a big hit on a just stopping just short of a first down play. Denzel Burke had his big hit. That's all the same drive, and it's just setting up to this final boss hit from Tommy Eichenberg, and it just didn't happen. I think my last thing here is First, the two screen passes that Ohio State tried to throw two of the screen passes they tried to throw. The first one to Chip Trayanum in the first drive, where Chip basically gets blocked by, I think, Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons. He couldn't get out of the backfield, and so McCord just had to throw it away. The one near the end zone, inside the 5 or whatever, Ryan Day talked about that on Tuesday, how they knew it was going to be zero coverage, so they wanted to go to that play. They just weren't expecting the defensive tackle to zone blitz basically and drop into coverage, and did a great job of completely ruining that play. I think it would have worked if that guy hadn't been in there to just blow it up. I still think that was a questionable call for the grounding, because you see that play all the time when the quarterback just ditches it because it's being blown up and there is somebody in the area. But regardless, the play was blown up anyway, so it didn't even matter. But the screen passes were not great. The drag route that for Maryland that went for 27, 28 yards or whatever, when Denzel Burke is chasing in coverage, and they basically have three receivers coming from the other side of the field to pick Denzel Burke, but because the throw is behind the line of scrimmage and it's, everything's really close, that was a really great play. It was a 3rd and 7, and it went for a big gain. But you see Denzel Burke trying to chase the receiver, and he's got three guys running right at him, and he has to dodge them. But good design by Maryland, and good job by the refs not to bail them out there. So that's basically what I've got, Tom.
All right, two quickies, Tony. First one, you see the final score of 37-17, and you think Ohio State won this game easily. With 10:45 left in the game, Tony, it was 20-17 Ohio State, and they were facing a 2nd and 33 on their own side of the field. And I mean, as much as the Josh Proctor game interception, pick six, swung momentum in the first half, boy, that first down where they convert a 2nd and 33 to Marvin Harrison, that really swung the momentum in that fourth quarter again. And really, because you're backed way up like that. There's lots of that is the ultimate 3 things can happen and 2 are bad kind of situation, where it's 2nd and 33 and you can try and do too much and turn the ball over. You can try and not do enough and have to punt it away, and then you're up 3 and trying to protect a 3-point lead with 10 minutes left of the game. And they were very fortunate that they did the third thing, which was throw to Marvin Harrison and let him be Marvin Harrison. And then the next play they throw to Cade Stover after the penalty on Ryan Day, which, oh boy, that was another great moment in college football. And then they throw a touchdown to Cade Stover, and all of a sudden, boom, they're up 10 points, and they've kind of taken control. And then lastly, boy, JT Tuimoloau keeps making big plays in really big moments. I mean, he wasn't credited with the tackle on the 4th and 3 on the ensuing drive, but that was really essentially the ball game. Ohio State had a 10-point lead. Maryland's at 4th and 3 on their own 20-something, or maybe their own 30. And JT Tuimoloau gets around the edge and gets his hands, got 2 hands on the back, didn't tackle him, but slowed him down enough that all of a sudden, by the time he, slid off of him, Cody Simon was there. I think Davis Nigbinosin was there. It might have been Sonny Styles. I mean, there were a lot of guys there all at once, and that was, that was not one of those. Do they have to measure? No, they have not had to measure. That was just real. Another very, very big play by JT Tuimoloau in a really, really big moment.
Yeah, a lot to digest as you rewatch it, and you pick up things and. You see new things, you see old things, and then you remember, this is still JT Tuimoloau, who exploded last year, and Ryan Day and Jim Knowles have said in the past, you wait for him to do something in the big moments, because that's what he's been really good at, and he did that again in this one, and you expect it to happen again. Should the Buckeyes ever be in another close game? Who's to say? But that will do it for this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. As always, you can find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can find us at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the bell to be notified whenever we go live or drop something new like this one. Thumbs up is always great as well. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, go ahead and, if you want, you'd be so kind, a 5-star rating and review is always welcome as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.